You know him. Maybe he was your brother, your lover, your friend. A man whose eyes once burned with the promise of something extraordinary. Dreams too big for this world, ambitions that felt like the beginning of a legend. You saw it, didn't you? The way he spoke of the future, as if it lived right there in the palm of his hand, as if greatness were inevitable. And yet, the seasons turned, and the future he dreamed of remained just that. A dream. He lived suspended in the shimmering mist of one day, always waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity, the unseen miracle. Each failure cloaked in beautiful reasons. It wasn't the right time. They didn't understand me. I was destined for more. You wanted to believe him. Perhaps part of you still does. Because there's something magnetic about him. His spontaneity, his wild brilliance, his refusal to be ordinary. But listen carefully, and beneath the laughter, beneath the endless beginnings, you'll hear something else. Something quieter, something heavier. A refusal, a fear, a silent pact with an old illusion that life should bend to his dreams, and that growing up would somehow betray who he really is. Today we step into a deeper truth, into the shadow that Carl Jung called the Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy hidden within the man. The dreamer who floats between worlds, never landing, never rooting, always reaching, but never holding. And with him, we will confront the heavy, unspoken cost of refusing to grow, the dreams that rot, the love that crumbles, the life that quietly slips away. This is not a judgment. This is a mirror. And if you feel something stirring within you as you listen, a recognition, a sorrow, a memory, know that it is not by accident. It is the first crack in the illusion, the first whisper that real life, whole life, does not wait. It demands we wake up, and it begins here. There are forces that live quietly inside a man, forces he doesn't see, but which shape everything he touches. The Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy, is one of them. It is not just a phase, not just immaturity, it is an archetype, a deep psychic imprint carved far below the level of conscious thought. He resists the pull of the earth, not because he lacks strength, but because he still believes in a beautiful illusion, that life should bend itself around his dreams. That greatness should find him without the weary work of building it. In his heart, responsibility feels like a betrayal. Commitments feel like cages, deadlines like a slow death of the soul. And so, he floats, above the weight of daily life, above the quiet duties that weave a real existence, above the discipline that roots a man into something lasting, or at least he believes he floats. But the world is not deceived. Reality, silent and patient, becomes a mirror. It reflects back everything he refuses to claim, every task abandoned, every gift neglected, every step toward adulthood left untaken. The more he runs, the harsher the reflection grows. What once looked like freedom begins to feel like drift. What once seemed like rebellion begins to look like fear. The world does not hate him. It simply waits, showing him again and again the truth he does not want to see. That nothing real is built without weight. That nothing lasting is born without roots. That floating is not flight. It is falling in slow motion. And the longer he refuses to land, the farther away true life slips from his hands. When you first meet him, it's hard not to be drawn in. His ideas crackle with energy. His visions light up the air around him. It feels for a moment like you're standing at the edge of something extraordinary, something the world has not yet seen, but desperately needs. You believe in him, maybe even more than he believes in himself. But time, silent and merciless, reveals a quieter truth. He lives forever suspended, caught between ambition and action, between the dream of flight and the refusal to build wings strong enough to carry him. Obstacles inevitably appear: a demanding boss, a relationship that asks for depth, a mirror that reflects back his unfinished work. And when they do, he recoils. He tells himself stories to soften the pain. It wasn't the right project. It wasn't the right time. They didn't understand my vision. And so once again, he retreats into another beginning, another grand idea, another horizon just out of reach. The cycle repeats itself over and over, an endless becoming, never an arrival. Every unfinished novel gathering dust, every business abandoned before it could take root, every love story left hanging in the air. They are not accidents. They are not the cruel tricks of fate. They are self-sabotage, not born from laziness, and certainly not from lack of brilliance, but from something much deeper and far more painful. A terror. A deep, unconscious terror of failure, of limitation, of discovering he might be ordinary after all. He would rather leave dreams unfinished and cling to the fantasy of greatness than risk confronting his own human vulnerability. It is not that he cannot succeed. It is that success would force him to confront the myth he lives inside, the myth of being exceptional without the burden of effort. And so he dances endlessly at the threshold of greatness, but never steps through. He remains the boy at the edge of the forest, longing for the treasures hidden beyond the trees, but too afraid to leave the safety of his imagined world. And with every cycle, with every abandoned dream, the sorrow grows a little heavier, the world a little colder, the light in his eyes a little dimmer. But still, he tells himself, tomorrow I will begin, not realizing that tomorrow is the oldest lie he keeps whispering to himself. At first, being close to him feels like magic. You stand near him, and it feels as if you are witnessing the blooming of something rare. A soul too wild, too brilliant to ever fit inside the ordinary world. You want to believe in him. You want to be the one who stays, the one who understands. And so, you wait. You nurture his dreams as if they were your own. You forgive the missed calls, the forgotten promises, the endless plans that shimmer in the air but never touch the ground. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the enchantment begins to fray. You start to notice the weight you are carrying. Not just your own hopes, but his abandoned ones too. You find yourself making excuses to friends, to family, to yourself for why the things he promised never came to life. He builds castles in the sky, but never lays a single stone, and the burden of those invisible castles falls silently onto your shoulders. You feel it in the exhaustion that creeps into your bones, in the quiet sadness that lingers after every broken plan, in the growing ache of waiting for someone who is not truly moving toward you, or toward anything at all. And then comes the cruelest twist. When you finally ask for what you deserve, for presence, for commitment, for something real, he looks at you not with gratitude, but with resentment. He calls you demanding, rigid, ordinary. He accuses you of not understanding him, of trying to clip his wings, of forcing him into a world he was never meant to belong to. But the truth he cannot yet face, is that he is drowning. Not because the world is too heavy, but because he has never learned to swim through it. Because every responsibility feels like a tidal wave against the fragile raft of his unclaimed adulthood. And as he struggles, he pulls you down with him. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Out of an aching refusal to face the demands of becoming whole. You thought you were loving a man becoming a legend. But what you were really loving was a boy who could not, or would not, grow up. And no matter how much you love him, you cannot build a life for two on dreams that never touch the ground. If you look closely behind the man who refuses to grow, you will often find a silent figure standing in the shadows. Carl Jung called her the symbolic mother. Sometimes she is his actual mother, overprotective, indulgent, terrified of letting him stumble, and so she shields him from the necessary roughness of life. Other times she appears disguised as a lover, a partner, a devoted friend. Someone who offers unconditional acceptance, but at an invisible cost. Eternal dependence. He seeks her out relentlessly, not to build a partnership, not to walk side by side into adulthood, but to find shelter. A psychic womb where no demands are made, where failure is forgiven before it even happens, where the sharp edges of life are blunted into something soft, something bearable, something that asks nothing in return. And she, believing she is offering love, unknowingly becomes his captor. Together, they spin a cocoon of mutual illusion. A place where love means never challenging, where support means never confronting, where freedom means never choosing. But what they mistake for comfort is quietly becoming a prison, because a cocoon is not a home. It is a tomb for potential. It is a place where growth is suspended, where the boy within the man is kept safe, but never allowed to emerge into the harsh, beautiful world where real life demands real presence. The symbolic mother loves him. Of that there is no doubt. But love without boundaries, without letting go, without allowing another soul to fail and rise on their own, is not love that liberates. It is love that entraps. And the tragedy is this: as long as he clings to her, and as long as she clings to him, both remain trapped in an endless dance of arrested becoming. A dance where no one is truly alive, only endlessly rehearsing for a life that never fully begins. There is a price for remaining a boy inside a man's body, and it is a heavy one. At first it is easy to miss. The dreams are still alive after all, bright, shimmering, untouched by failure. But slowly, almost without noticing, those dreams begin to rot into bitterness. The promises he once made to himself turn sour in his mouth. Relationships strain under the weight of unmet needs. Needs he cannot even fully name, because he still waits for the world to understand him without him ever having to understand it in return. The body ages, the years pass, but the soul stays trapped, frozen inside the fantasies of adolescence. And the world, once a vast playground of endless possibilities, shrinks. It becomes a barren desert where missed chances gather like dry bones, and hollow regrets whisper on the wind. He tells himself noble stories to ease the ache, that he was too pure for this corrupted world, that he refused to sell out, that the system was broken, his parents misguided, his lovers not patient enough. But beneath all the stories, beneath all the anger, there is a quieter truth, one he dares not speak aloud. He was afraid, afraid to fall, afraid to fail, afraid to be ordinary, afraid to live in a world where love is earned, where success is built, where effort does not guarantee victory, but is required nonetheless. And fear, when it is not faced, when it is left to fester quietly in the corners of the soul, does something even more tragic. It ossifies. It hardens into destiny. What was once a choice becomes a life sentence. What was once a boy dreaming of greatness becomes a man mourning the life he never dared to live. There comes a moment when the mirror can no longer be avoided. It does not shout. It does not threaten. It simply waits until even the dreamer can no longer look away. The dreams that once fueled him no longer inspire. They haunt. They weigh heavy on his chest, like songs he can no longer sing. The freedom he once worshipped no longer excites, it suffocates. The endless openness, once intoxicating, now feels like drifting in a vast, empty sea. The charm he once wore like armor, the lightness, the brilliance, the laughter, no longer conceals. It exposes, it reveals the hollowness beneath the glow. This is the threshold Carl Jung called individuation, the beginning of true life, but also the death of everything false. It is a psychic death, bloody, painful, inevitable. To cross it, the man-child must be willing to shatter the illusions he has clung to for so long. He must see with clear, unflinching eyes that the perfect moment will never come, that no savior is waiting in the wings, that his specialness, real or imagined, does not exempt him from the ancient laws of life, work, sacrifice, responsibility. He must mourn. Mourn the fantasy boy he so tenderly protected. Mourn the life he imagined, but never built. Mourn the mother, real or symbolic, whom he must finally release if he ever hopes to stand on his own feet. Grief will come like a tide, fierce, disorienting, raw. But only through grief can rebirth begin. Only through the ashes of the dream can the true man emerge. Not perfect, not untouchable, but real. And it is from that realness, bruised, weathered, awake, that a life worth living can finally be born. The goal was never to kill the boy within. It was always to dethrone him, to honor the beauty he carries, but no longer let him rule the kingdom. Because within that eternal boy lives something precious, the spark of creativity, the visionary fire, the sacred lightness of soul. These are not flaws to be erased. They are gifts, but only if they are held with steady hands. The boy within must no longer command the journey. He must learn to serve it. When integrated, when embraced without being obeyed, the Puer Aeternus becomes the secret wellspring of vitality within the mature man. A man who still dreams, but now builds what he dreams. A man who still feels deeply, but remains anchored in his commitments. A man who still loves freedom, but knows that real freedom is the child of responsibility, not its enemy. This is maturity, not the death of wonder, but its rebirth under wiser stars. To grow up is not to exile the boy. It is to invite him into the circle of the self, to give him a place, but not the throne. It is to dance with your inner child, to let him remind you how to play, how to imagine, how to risk loving the world again, but never again allow him to drive the car. Because now there is a steadier hand at the wheel. A hand that remembers the dream, but is no longer enslaved by it. A soul that still feels the hunger for greatness, but is finally willing to build, to labor, to endure the long, quiet work that real greatness demands. This is the silent rebirth the world so desperately needs. If you hear the echo of yourself in these words, do not despair. You are not broken. You are not alone. Every soul at some point is tempted by the sweet illusion of eternal adolescence, the dream of a life that asks nothing in return, a life of endless beginnings without cost. It is a beautiful lie, but a lie nonetheless, because life, real life, is not given freely. It is forged through struggle, through grounding, through the hard, beautiful work of choosing again and again to stay awake. The time for waiting has ended. The bridges behind you are burning. The comfortable illusions are falling away. And the future, your future, is no longer a distant dream. It demands your crossing. It demands your presence. And you will not cross when you feel ready. You will cross when you decide. When you understand that fear will never leave you. That perfection will never arrive. That the life you ache for is already calling you, through the fear, through the uncertainty, through the last trembling shadows of the boy you once were. Carl Jung warned us, the person who does not confront their own darkness will be doomed to meet it again and again in the world. The man-child is not your enemy. He is your shadow. Face him. See him for what he is. A part of you that longed to be safe, but now holds you back. And when you face him, when you integrate him, you become something far greater. You become the man who dreams and dares to build, the man who feels and dares to stay, the man who still remembers the lightness of youth but carries it now within a heart made strong by the weight of the real world. This is not the end. It is the true beginning, and it is waiting for you. The world does not need more dreamers lost in illusions. It needs builders of reality, those who dare to shape, stone by stone, the world they once only imagined. It needs men who have made peace with the boy inside them, but chosen finally to stand as men. If you recognize this struggle within yourself, know this: the pain of growing will be real, but the pain of staying asleep will be far greater. Freedom is not found in escape. It is born in the quiet courage to meet life head-on, with open eyes, steady hands, and an awakened soul. The journey does not wait, and it begins now. Which part of this awakening spoke to you most deeply? Share your reflection below. Sometimes the first step toward reclaiming your life is simply daring to put it into words.